Once upon a time, there was a boy named Lawrence Bartholomew Pittsburgh who never got along with his father. So on his 15th birthday, he ran away to San Francisco, and he lived on Market Street with all the other runaways and hookers and bikers and pimps and street freaks and old-timers. He became a back alley street thief, and he changed his name to Sometimes Jones. Now, Sometimes Jones was tall and thin and homely, had big ears and a big nose, but he was also very smart. So smart that he seemed stupid, but actually he was just waiting to make his move. And then when he did move, he moved so fast you didn't see it. And even if you did see it, he did it so well you thought, that's got to be wrong. Now, Sometimes Jones also had a good black hat, and he was a real good pickpocket. As a matter of fact, the word on the street was Sometimes Jones was the best pickpocket in downtown San Francisco. Word was, if Sometimes Jones got close enough to touch you, your wallet was gone. I'll give you an example. One time, the President of the United States was up for re-election. As he was campaigning in San Francisco and his caravan was coming down Market Street, the President got out of his limousine and he started shaking hands with all the people who were standing on the curb. And just through luck and timing, Sometimes Jones got to shake the hand of the President of the United States of America. So that night, back at his apartment, Sometimes Jones went through the President's wallet. Now, in the wallet, there was some stamps and cash money and a valid driver's license and pictures of home and a very strange white plastic credit card with the inscription 2 for 1 written right in the center, and right down in the corner in tiny italics it said, "Good for one life." And on the back was written the agreement. Be it known that whosoever or what shall be prime mover in perpetuity throughout the known and or unknown universe, but not limited thereto, shall grant to the bearer of this card one other life. Registered card number 4545.45. Thought Jones. Very interesting. And he put it in his back pocket. And he felt really good the rest of the day. Didn't even mind losing all the President's money in a very close game of 9-ball with his best friend Sal. Because after all, he thought, I got another life right in my back pocket. Now, that evening, Sometimes Jones was taking his usual shortcut through this dark alley. He was held up by a desperate man with a gun. And the desperate man with a gun said, your money or your life. And Sometimes Jones thought, very interesting. So Sometimes Jones very slowly, very carefully reached into his back pocket, took out his 2 for 1 card, and he gave it to the desperate man with a gun, who took it, read it, and gave it back to him and said, this is bullshit. What else you got? Sometimes Jones says, I don't have anything else. Lost all my money in a very close game of 9-ball with my best friend Sal. So the desperate man with a gun said, then give me your hat. And Sometimes Jones says, nuh-uh, not my hat. This is a very good hat. I stole this from a very important person. The cops chased me for blocks. I worked very hard to steal this hat. If you want a hat like this, why don't you go steal your own? And the desperate man with a gun said, it's exactly what I'm doing, putz. And he grabbed for the hat. And Sometimes Jones grabbed it back, and there was this big scuffle, and the gun goes off. Sometimes Jones grabs his chest, and he looks at his hand, and it's covered with this thick, warm, red blood. And as Sometimes Jones starts to sink to the ground, he sees the desperate man running away with his good black hat. As Sometimes Jones lay dying in a pool of blood in this dark alley, suddenly, the alley fills with light, and a guardian angel appears, all dressed in white. The guardian angel stands over Jones and says, if you wish, you may exchange your death at this time for your 2 for 1 card, or you may choose to expire, keep the card as a souvenir, and have your name placed in the Who's Who in history book placed there posthumously. Well, Sometimes Jones wasn't ready to die, so he reaches into his back pocket with his last bit of strength, and he takes out his 2 for 1 card, and he hands it up to the angel, and he stood up in perfect health. No blood, no wound, no nothing. Guardian angel takes the cards, puts it in his back pocket, said, we've honored our agreement, you're on your own. And as the angel turns to leave, Sometimes Jones picks his pocket and gets that card back. Well, the angel leaves suspecting nothing. And Jones was thinking, hey, knowing the secret of this card, having one, and knowing it works, gives me some options. Well, the first thing I got to do is I got to get another black hat, and which he did. Well, it wasn't as good as his real good black hat, but he didn't have time for that now because he had that card and he had options. So now there isn't any dare, any chance that he wouldn't take. He became very successful as a thief, very, very famous. And he began to push the envelope, you know, as Jones is wont to do. And one afternoon, Jones pushed the envelope just a little too far, and Jones was shot in the back by a jealous husband. As Jones lay dying in a pool of his own blood, just as he hoped and prayed, and right on cue, the guardian angel appeared all dressed in white. The guardian angel stood over Jones and said, if you wish, you may exchange your death at this time for your 2 for 1 card, or you may choose to expire, keep your card as a souvenir, and have your name placed in the Who's Who in history book placed there posthumously. Haven't I seen you before? Haven't we met? No, wait a minute. I know. I never forget a face. You on television? You an actor? Jones didn't have time for that. With his last dying breath, he reached into his back pocket. He pulled out his card, and he ended up. Stood up in perfect health. No blood, no wound, no nothing. The guardian angel put the card in his back pocket, said, "We've honored our agreement. You're on your own." And as the angel turned to leave, sometimes Jones picked his pocket and got that card back again. Put it in his back pocket, but this time, as Jones turned to leave, the guardian angel picked his pocket and got the card back. And this time, Jones left without suspecting a thing. Well, Jones, still thinking he had nothing to fear from death, continued to take chances and risks and dares and became successful and famous. Became the most famous thief and the most successful thief in his neighborhood, in 2 or 3 neighborhoods. Matter of fact, he became so successful and famous, a gang invited him in, and within 1 week, sometimes Jones became their leader. Well, now, there's nothing they wouldn't do. They would take any dare, any risk. I mean, they were stealing cars with people still in them. They were taking wheelbarrows into department stores. Jones was holding up police stations. He was picking cops' pockets. On a Friday night, they actually broke into the city zoo, and Jones stole a rhinoceros. And he got away with it. And then 2 nights later, he broke back into the city zoo and returned the rhinoceros and still didn't get caught. And on and on. And of course, he had nothing to fear from the gang, because if any of the gang challenged him, sometimes Jones would just counter-challenge him with a fight to the death, because he thought, well, he has nothing to fear. He's got that card. He couldn't die. At least he thought he had that card, of course, until he started to look for it, but he couldn't find it. It wasn't in his pants. It wasn't in his jacket. It wasn't in the closet. It wasn't in a drawer. It wasn't under the bed. It wasn't in the bureau. It wasn't in the refrigerator. He couldn't find it anywhere. So he thought maybe he lost it or somebody stole it. So sometimes Jones became very cautious, and he started making mistakes, which made him fearful. So he became self-righteous, and he started treating his gang badly. So they became confused, and he became angry. So they became obstinate. So he became vindictive. So they just got fed up and challenged him to a fight to the death. Well, you know, Jones tried to make excuses, make accusations, try to joke, but the gang wouldn't buy it. And finally, when sometimes Jones saw that they saw the fear in his eyes, he pulled his gun. And as his best friend Sal tried to calm him down and talk some sense into him, another gang member, Terry, snuck around behind Jones and shot him in the back. As sometimes Jones lay dying in a pool of his own blood, for the 3rd time in 2 months, he thought he'd confess. See, guys, I had unlimited life. See, 2 for 1. I couldn't die. See, the guardian angel gave me that card, but I guess I lost it, or one of you stole it. Now, the gang had no idea what the hell he was babbling about. 2 for 1, guardian angel? Who stole what? What is he talking about? And of course, all they thought was, Jones is dying, that's all. The place was covered with blood. Matter of fact, Terry, the guy who shot him in the back, felt so sorry for Jones that he actually knelt down and cradled Jones' head in his lap. Jones kept on babbling, though. He kept on saying, well, see, guys, you know, I'm just a thief, you know? Just a pickpocket, not great, but certainly not bad. And Terry, the gang member who shot him in the back, just looked down into Jones' dying eyes. And he spoke very clearly and very slowly, and he said, Jonesy, you are an asshole. And Jones just looked back into his eyes, and he raised his hand very slowly, and he offered Terry his wallet back. Not bad for a dying asshole, huh, Terry? Well, the gang thought that was pretty cool. Hey, man, look at that. He's dying. He's still picking pockets, you know? But then Jones said, but I guess, Terry, I guess you're right. I guess I am an asshole. And as Jones spoke those words, the room filled with light, and a guardian angel appeared, all dressed in white. Well, the gang froze, but just for a second. And then they took off, and Jones' head hit the cold cement floor with this dull bonk, as Terry just jumped up and ran off after him. The angel stood over Jones, and he said, now, Jones, you're not an asshole. You're a poor fool. Let me tell you how it works. See, ultimate power has 2 lives. Cats have 9, but poor fools live forever. But I lost my card. But I lost my card. And the guardian angel says, yeah, we know you lost your card. That's why we don't give cards to poor fools. They lose them. They're fools. We know this. So we keep the cards and we keep your records. And besides, Jones, we know you. Come on. Oh, and by the way, everything that you stole while you had that card, that's been confiscated, except for $2. And here's your good black hat back. So Jones went back to the pool hall that day, very happy in the knowledge that ultimate power only lives twice, while poor fools live forever. Besides, he got his good black cat back. So Jones is thinking, you know, it's much better to be a poor fool. It's just a lot harder, that's all. Now back at the pool hall, sometimes Jones spent 75 cents for a candy bar, and then he lost the rest of the money in a very close game of 9-ball with his best friend Sal. The end.